Hello everyone, welcome to Gardening TLC. My name is Michelle. I live in Northern Illinois. I'm in Zone 5. So fall is here and I have to start cleaning up some of my beds. So I'm a home gardener just like you guys, but I also own a garden center, so I'm really busy in the spring. But I still like to have nice looking winter beds, so I have to assess in each of my beds what I'm going to keep and what I'm not going to keep. So I'm going to go through and do a bunch of cleanup in the beds. I thought I'd take you along with me so that you can see kind of how I assess what to keep and what not to keep, because maybe you are asking yourself that very same question. All right, so let's get going today and clean up some beds. There's a lot out there about clean your bed, don't clean your bed, leave it till spring, don't cut anything back, let it all die back naturally. I think that you have to do what's right for you. Whether you do it all in the fall, you do it all in the spring, or you do a little bit of it in both seasons, you have to do what works for you. For me, I don't have time in the spring to go around and clean all my beds up. I own a garden center, and guess what? In the spring, it's really busy. Between flipping the store and waking up all the plants that you overwintered, all the trucks that are coming with product, all the hiring and training that you have to do, all the displays you have to put up, there is no time to do all the cleanup for me in the spring. So I kind of take a mixed approach to it. I leave up things in the winter that I think are going to look good and create a beautiful winter garden for me, and I take everything else out. Now, we created compost bins earlier in the year, and I will be taking a lot of my debris over to the compost bin, and because leaves are falling, guess what? I'm going to have my brown material or my carbon to add to my compost pile so that I start having breakdown, and hopefully by the end of next year, I'll have beautiful compost to put down in my gardens. As I'm going through my beds, I will look for anything that looks like fungus or disease, so powdery mildew and things like that. I don't want to throw that into the compost pile. I will dispose of that in my paper disposable bags and take that and throw it away. Now, I do have one tree. You can see here it's got these black lesions on it. This is off my sugar maple, which is right here. I try to gather all the leaves from this tree and dispose of them. I know it gets mixed in with the other leaves because the wind blows and things like that, but I try to get as much of it as I can. This is black tar. It will not kill my tree, but it's just ugly looking. And to kind of control it so it doesn't spread around so much on the other trees, I try to bag up all the leaves. Now, sugar maples, Freeman maples, and Crimson King maples are probably the three that it affects the most. Right now, I only have it on this one tree. I saw it for the first time about 3 years ago. So it's not hurting my tree, it just makes it ugly looking. So I will look for stuff like this and not put this in the compost pile. If you are brand new to gardening and you're not sure what is gonna look good where you live in the winter and what isn't, what I recommend is you don't cut anything back until you go through a winter. But then you gotta go outside and assess your garden. What looked good in the winter, what didn't look good in the winter. But it's also a good time to assess in your garden where you need to put some winter interest. So I did that last year, and I've added to my winter garden because I was really lacking some evergreen interest in a lot of different areas in my garden. So I upped my game and I added some evergreens throughout all of my garden beds this year so that I got more interest in the winter garden. Now, I kind of know what I want to keep and what I don't want to keep, but I didn't know until I actually went through my first winter and I figured out what I liked and what I didn't like. And that's what I recommend you do that very first winter to figure out what you like and what you don't like. Now, keep in mind, if you decide to keep everything up and you have flowers that produce seed pods, guess what's going to happen? Yeah, those seed pods can go on the ground and you can have babies all over. Now, if you don't want that, cut the stuff back. If you don't care, or you're good with going out in the spring and pulling all of those little babies as soon as you see them and maybe moving them to someplace else in the garden, leave them up. Plus, it's great winter forage for all the birds and the animals in your garden through the winter. I know for sure that I'm going to get the sidewalk bed and the driveway bed done today. I don't try to get all my beds done at once. That's a little overwhelming for me. I have to do this in smaller chunks. And I think if mentally you break it down into smaller chunks, even if it's just one bed a day or one bed a week, you probably have time to get them all done before winter sets in. I'm starting today because I got to get a jump on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to assess each bed. I'm going to take you through kind of what I'm thinking and my thought process behind what I keep and what I don't keep. Now, we have a 14-day forecast with no frost. I know. We got 2 days of frost, so it took some of my plants out, and I'm definitely going to be clearing all the pots out from the sidewalk bed, taking them over to the compost pile, and then cleaning this bed up. But let me take you through, and I'll take you through my thought process of what I'm leaving up, what I'm taking down, and why I'm doing it. This is my driveway bed, and here I'm going to assess what I'm going to keep. Now, there are items in here that I would normally keep if they're in another bed, and you'll see when we eventually get to the other beds that I will keep them. But in my driveway bed, because it's such a long driveway, I plow. And so when I plow, sometimes I hit the edge right here, because if I get 6 inches of snow, sometimes I can't see where the edge is. And so here I do cut back all of my plants on the edge of the driveway. Now, there are some really nice ones in here that I'll take you through, and if you decide to keep them up in your bed, they are nice winter interest in the bed. The first one being these summer blooming alliums. So whether you have Serendipity, Millennium, Summer Beauty, there's a lot of different ones out there. I love these little guys. They are so pretty. And if you feel like it, you could paint the little flower heads on there and have some color in the garden through the winter. Now, once we get a really super heavy snow, these guys will be down on the ground. But for the time being, I like to leave them up in the garden. Another one that I really like to leave up in the garden are tall stonecrop or the tall garden sedum. They usually have some really nice color on them. Now these here I ran over, so they're a little flayed out, but I have some others in the garden that I keep up, and they look good all winter long. They have nice pretty seed heads on them. Again, you can paint them if you want to, but they will stand up even through a heavy snow. And then in the spring, you can literally just step on them, break the stalks off, and rake them up. The biggest thing to remember with both this tall stonecrop sedum and the allium is that both of them are really early emergers as far as their foliage in the spring. So you do want to get out there and get them cut back before that foliage really takes off or isn't as pretty when they're growing up. So both of those are nice to keep up in a winter garden. Now, again, I will be cutting mine back because I'm on the edge of the driveway. The other thing I have in here is I have liatris, as you can see, not pretty winter interest. I'm cutting those back. We come along this way, we have some more sedum, cutting that back because it's on the edge of the driveway. These are black-eyed Susans that I already cut back. I don't worry about those, edge of the driveway, cutting them back. Daylilies, not the greatest looking thing in the winter, cutting them back. So I will have all of this green gone on the edge of my driveway. And even though that's a lot of what's in this garden, yeah, because I plow, it needs to go away. The other thing that I cut back in this garden that don't really look good at all in the winter are hostas. Once a hard frost hits these, we're talking like the temperatures go below 28 degrees, every one of these leaves will like mush up and die to the ground. Now, hostas are certainly one of the few plants that you really should clean up in the fall. I cut back all of my hostas. That way I'm not overwintering any bugs, disease, or slugs or anything like that want to like hang out in that foliage. I just get rid of that. Definitely the star of this bed will be the fruit punch hydrangeas. I leave the flowers on all winter long. Some people don't like them. I do like them. They have set their winter color for the most part. They're pretty brown. They've lost that vibrant red color that they had going into fall because we had a frost. And the boxwoods. So the boxwoods are in the front here, and I have 5 of them. I already pruned them the other day in a video, but I leave all of these up. They look absolutely fabulous. I also have my magnolia, which is right over here. That magnolia loses all of its leaves, but then it has a nice shape to it. So that is another structure in the garden that looks really good. Now, behind these fruit punch hydrangeas, I do have a woodgilla. This is a Sunset Monet woodgilla. I usually cut this thing back to the ground every other year, and this is the year that I'm going to cut it back to the ground. I'm going to wait for it to go dormant. How do I know it's dormant? Well, all the leaves will have fallen off of it, then I know. Once that happens, I will cut that thing back to the ground so that I get a new flush of growth next year. I'm sacrificing my blooms, but this is a rebloomer, so I'll get a rebloom on it later in the season. For me, I just think that I like the shape of this thing if I cut it back every other year. So there you go. Here's bed number 1 and what we've decided to keep. Let's get it done, and then I'll show you what it looks like afterwards. bed is now done. It took me about 15 minutes to do the bed. It ended up being 3 pop-up bags full of debris. I still have one right here that I have to take back there. I will cut back this woodgilla once all the leaves fall off and it's gone to sleep and it's dormant. I will actually just take that all the way to the ground. Once I do that, see, then you can really see the hydrangeas, which are back here, and we'll leave those flowers on. It'll look really good. So this bed is now done and ready for winter. All right, I moved my little bistro table over to the side because the next bed that we're going to work on is up here. So one of the things I'm going to be doing is emptying all my pots. My coleus aren't looking that great after the frost, and a lot of the impatiens really succumbed. You can see here, they aren't looking that great, so it's time for me to empty those out. I am going to prune the boxwoods. I still have a 14-day window where I don't have any hard frost, so I'm going to take the risk, give them a little haircut. Now, I am not going to prune these oak leaf hydrangeas. These oak leaf hydrangeas bloom on old wood, so if I start hacking the heck out of these, guess what? No flowers next year. Now, in the spring, I will assess what I need to cut off by looking at dead, diseased, or broken branches. And that's it. That's all I will prune off. And I will clip off the little flowers. I leave those on through the winter though. Now you can see the frost started to trigger the color change on the leaves. We've got some nice burgundy and orange red going on. And these will completely change, defoliate, and then I'll have the structure of this shrub sitting there. As we swing down this way, I do have an Incrediball in here. I do cut this guy to the ground. He blooms on new wood, and I like to be able to have this cut to the ground so I can clean up leaves. It's not like anything spectacular in the winter. I am going to clip all the flowers off, though, and dry them, because maybe I'll find a use for them over the winter, and maybe not. But either way, I'm going to clip them off just so I have them. So this is an Incrediball by Proven Winners. It is a smooth hydrangea. We already cleared the pot out that was there. And now if we swing down to this side of the bed, I do have a Patriot Hosta. I will cut that back. And I have the Jack of Diamonds Brennera in here. Now, I don't cut back Brennera. Some people do. I don't. If I have a hard winter, it'll take it out. If we have a mild winter, it'll still be there in the spring. And I'm that much further ahead. And all I do is clean up any tattered dead foliage on it. Here is my second oak leaf hydrangea, which we will leave alone. All right, come down here. I got 3 more boxwoods that I'm going to prune up. I do have a Serrata hydrangea. This is a mountain hydrangea. This one is called Aha. It has more of an open flower panicle on it, as you can see right there. This blooms on old wood, so I do not cut it back. I leave it alone and just let the leaves defoliate once it gets cold enough. And then we have our coral bells. I treat coral bells the same way as the Brennera. I don't cut them back. I leave them up. If you are in a warm enough zone, these guys will probably overwinter and be semi-evergreen. I will cut all of the flowers off of them. And again, if I have a mild winter, they'll still be here. Last year, they were still here when spring broke, and all I had to do was clean up like the undersides of the leaves and any tattered leaves. If I had leaves that had damage, I just cut them off. But it gave me a really big head start on them going into this year. If we get a hard winter, they'll just die back. And I'm not out anything because I have good luck with this cultivar coming back. So this is the Palace Purple and the Citronelle. All right, if we swing over here, we have 4 more coral bells. I'll treat them the exact same way. And then we have a Diravilla. We'll just let that defoliate and be there all winter. All right, so when we're done, this bed will be pretty cleaned up. All the flowers in the pots, the grasses, the anemones, all of those will be gone. All right, let's get busy. this side all cleaned up. Looks a little naked, but it looks really clean and tidy, and there's something to be said about tidiness in the garden, as well as having it full and overflowing. And then here is the other side. Oh my gosh, it does look naked. Also, don't forget in the winter to disconnect your hose so you don't blow out your spigots. I'm going to leave mine on for probably another couple weeks because I still want to make sure that all of my evergreens get good water. I want to wait until the ground freezes so that they can make it through the winter without drying out, especially since I gave them a little haircut. Now, I will get this mulched up before we go into winter, and then this bed will be 100% done and ready to go. But it's not quite time to tidy it all the way down yet. We got a little bit of time. So there you go. I have assessed what I want to leave up in the beds and what I'm going to take down. I have winter interest in both of my beds, and if I didn't, again, as I said before, this is a good time to assess where you could put some winter interest next year. Another really good time to go out and look at it is after you get your first snowfall. Then you'll really see where you need to add interest. I've got my hydrangeas, I've got my grasses, not quite sure what I'm going to use them for, but I'll think of something. I am so happy that I got 2 beds done. There is a loveliness in cleaning up the beds and getting them ready for winter and putting them to sleep. For me, doing 2 beds today took me about an hour. It was an hour well spent. If I had to do all my beds at once, that is so overwhelming for me. I can't even think about it. It's so daunting to think about spending 12 hours in the garden cleaning every single bed up. That doesn't work for me. I have to pace myself. So you got to witness my boxwoods. They got their very first haircut. See, and that's why I like winter gems, because those winter gems just finished their, let me see, 4th or 5th year. I can't even remember anymore. They've never been trimmed. Did you see those nice little shapes that they had? Now it was time for them to get their trim, and I'm probably pretty late doing it, but again, it was my risk to take. I do have 14 days with no frost. It's actually 80 degrees right now outside, and tomorrow it's going to be 81, and then we've got 70, 70, 70, 70, 70, and then it starts to drop down into the 60s. So we have had absolutely fantastic weather. I'm probably a little ahead of myself getting the beds cleaned up, but I've got to get ahead of it because I've got so much going on. All right, hopefully this helped you kind of determine how to go through your beds and, you know, keep it, cut it back. Keep it, cut it back. What do I want it to look like? And if you're not sure, leave it all up. Also, walk your beds when you're done and see where are the holes. Where do you want winter interest? And another really good time to do that, right after the first snowfall. Go out and look at your beds. Where are you missing some beauty in the garden? Don't forget, Garden Gab is changing. Through the winter months, we're only going to have 1 Garden Gab a month. There'll be less questions, and there isn't as much gardening going on, at least up here in the north. I continue to make videos. A lot of them are going to be design videos. We've got some holiday videos, just some really fun things coming up, so stay tuned for those. Now, in November, we are looking for your fall porch, and whether it's the back porch, the front porch, a covered porch, it's a porch. I want to see what you've done to celebrate fall with your porch. Send your pictures to the email address right here, and we will share those during the November Garden Gab. I don't know what Saturday it will be. I will announce it as we get closer to it because I'm going to have to fit it into my schedule, but I'll make sure I get it done. Now, when you take the pictures, make sure you send them in a landscape format, which means you turn your phone the long ways. I want to know who you are, where you live, what we're looking at, and what zone you live in. We love to see all the inspiration that you send with those pictures. Then in December, we're going to go after Christmas, whether it's a beautiful porch pot that you did, your porch that you decorated, your Christmas tree, a mantle that you made out all gorgeous and beautiful, or even a little tablescape. Send those in December, and we'll share those during the December Garden Gab. All right, so that's all I've got for today, you guys. I hope you get in your garden. I hope you give it some TLC. This time of year, it probably needs some, and I hope you give yourself some too. I'm Michelle, and we'll catch you in the next video. Bye!